Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 4th of April, comes to you from London. And we'll be looking at Brent Crude after that big jump yesterday. We'll take a look at the energy mix towards the end of this session. But the big story at the moment is what's going on in New York with Trump. It's just the news headline seems to be covered with it. And I put a post out on LinkedIn this morning about Vornado Group, the real estate group that Trump has a side interest with in San Francisco. And it's just quite an interesting story. And the real stress that we're seeing in commercial real estate could be the next sort of big crisis for America. We've seen the banking crisis, and there's an element of where next. And basically, you look at this chart and you go, how low can it go? I love this feature in Updata, by the way, where you can put an image behind the chart. So it's really, really great for this sort of presentation. But if we want to know how low Vornado is going to go, we just literally start by hitting the T key on the chart. And we can see here that those targets have already been passed and met. So it tells us that we've got to go to a bigger box size. So we go to a bigger box size. And again, we see these targets that were given have been met. No big surprises there. So where do we go now? This is not really that helpful. What you have to do is then go down to the shorter term time frames. And if we go to the 60-minute chart, we see now that we've got just a little bit more information. We've got a downside target there as well. And because this is had dramatic falls, we probably want to do a log scale chart as well. So that is going to be quite insightful because it takes account of the dramatic change in the chart. And we see these targets met 15.5. Remembering the price was up near 90 not that long ago. They've had to deal, the real estate sector has had to deal with a tenfold increase from 0.05 to 5% interest rate rise in the US. So really quite something. But we've still got this downside target hanging over here at 4.75. It just really says that there's a lot of property stocks, real estate stocks that may not yet have found the bottom. So that's going to be really quite interesting just to watch how that plays out with commercial real estate. And of course, financing costs, all the big thing there. So looking at the market, a lot of green on the screen this morning. The dollar is down, which means that most other currencies are up. We're really watching this dollar index. We're sitting at 101. Key levels are going to be the key here. We just put those key levels on the chart. 105.88 and 101.85 is the low. So a fall below 100 would be bad, and a rise above 106 would be good for the dollar in terms of dollar strength. So we're seeing here we're bearish below the cloud on the daily and the 60-minute. This is my long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. So lots of downward pressure there on the dollar, and that's really quite interesting. And I can keep those key levels on the chart actually. So we see here the euro, similar levels that we need to watch for the dollar, and looking more bullish on the euro. We have got an upside target that's not yet activated on the euro. And we look at the yen, similar picture here, and these are the key levels here. And the yen tends to be a lead indicator, although we seem to be nudging on that dollar index more closely than the yen at the moment. But 127, 138, those are the critical levels. A higher high above 138 would be bullish for the dollar. Lower low below 127 would be bearish for the dollar. So that's really what's going on there. And if we look at sterling, we've got key levels here as well, 125, 118. Those are the levels to watch. And that's just simply how you do it. So you're going to take those off the chart, but a really good thing just to keep watching those. And that 125 level, we're really nudging that on sterling at the moment, making new highs. And that's playing out quite nicely. Many of you know I've got quite a big Australian dollar trade on at the moment. A lot of people said to me, did you exit when we had this fallback yesterday? But no, because this is a medium term trade. I've got targets into the $2 area. I've got 188, 187, and I'm going to get a new target on this column here. It hasn't finished yet. That's 189.97, let's say 190. So it's pushing higher. You just had to live for that pullback. And yesterday when that pullback was happening, I just went down to the 1 minute chart. And from there, I just hit the T key, and then I just go lower and lower. And this was the picture that I'm confronted with. This is this morning's jump, and I was watching this chart really closely. So if you're trading anything really, you can just go through the different time frames and get the targets. And so for the moment, this is a very short term, like today, these are the targets that I'm really watching for the upside there. So really quite key. Bitcoin is sitting at 28,300. It's holding on to those levels, so that's really quite interesting. Just wandering down a little bit on the short-term chart, but medium and long term, the medium term has more to do. We still haven't activated this upside target. We need to close really above 29,000 to do that. So just all eyes there. We're seeing the futures this morning up 0.25% on the S&P and up, remembering that 4,200 is the level really that we have to break on the S&P. So we're not done that yet. And then if we look at the Nasdaq, that has broken to a new level there. That's broken that February high. So tech stocks looking more bullish. Upside targets there, but again we are still below the clouds, so quite interesting that we are potentially still in a bear market. Not much going on with the FTSE future this morning, up 0.1%. Found cloud support on the lagging line there, and the long term again found cloud support there on the price, looking more bullish on all three time frames, so still pretty good. Looking at the DAX in Germany, up 0.8%, so stronger there this morning, really taking that Deutsche Bank news last week into its stride and bullish on all three time frames. We've got an upside target there, so quite interesting as well. Asia, not a great deal of changes there. If we look at the Sensex down up at 0.2%, the Aussie market actually looking stronger as well, just gradually going up the hill, so pretty good news there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Just looking at some of the commodities, we've got wheat up 0.75%. Not enough to change the picture medium and long term. We are bearish after that spike high that we saw last year and moving sideways on the short term chart. And if we look at gold, sitting at 1983, realistically, gold is coming back to test this 2000 level, little mini triangle going on there, and we have got targets to 2100, 2350. So really seeing gold pushing higher there, and we'll get a new upside target here on the 60-minute chart. That will be interesting as well, 2060. So it's looking pretty likely that gold is going to get back above that 2000 level. If it can hold 2000, we can then think about running to the bigger targets, 2100, 2350. So looking really interesting there. Silver needs to get back above the 25 level. That's going to be pretty critical for silver, but looking at the moment, like it's starting to come through the cloud on the long-term chart. Not quite as bullish as the gold chart looks, but still pretty good. And if we look at 10-year yields, we're sitting at 3.45%. No great changes here. We are still slightly bearish, but the long-term picture is still bullish. We haven't managed to activate these downside targets to 230, 238. Really interesting that the market is just not activating those downside targets. We need a lower low. Lots of uncertainty about what the Fed will do here, but the long-term picture is still bullish for rates, so that's really quite interesting. Taking a look at the energy mix now, we talked about Brent crude. Here's the jump. What matters now is, will we make a new high or a new low? 86.40, 86.44 and 83.50 are the key levels. That was the key level function that I put on the chart. So really quite key there. And what we just have to look at is, are we going to make up there? We haven't made enough of a move, really. We need to move above this 86.75 level. 87 would do it. And then above that 89, we've got to climb that wall of worry and unwind these lines of resistance. But for the moment, on the shorter term charts, this is my 1 minute. This is today. We've got 99.70, 80. That's a big target off yesterday's move, but we have to move higher to activate it, of course. 86.30, 87.50, 86.20, and we've got targets again pushing up here. On the medium term chart and the longer term charts, the downside targets are still in place. It will be a case of seeing new upside targets coming in there. So that's going to be really quite key. Looking at emissions, sitting at 96.20, got lots of little upside targets yesterday that were met. We were bullish on that. 99.50, 100. We are coming back to test this 100 level on emissions. We were bearish on gas this morning, or we were neutral. We just couldn't call it really, seeing that pullback. But German power, interesting, is looking very strong indeed. Once we broke that 145 level, we talked about that a lot. We had upside targets pointing to that. We pointed that out to clients, and now we've got higher targets still. Keep an eye on those 1 minute targets if you're trading German power. Absolutely essential. That's it for today. Really interesting day in markets. Hang in there. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.